but getting the patient to be able to connect back with you when it comes to these big cases, that's that stickiness that's so critically important. I know we're talking about case acceptance, but this is the patient experience. It's as if you have this ball of trust that you're slowly adding to. I call it a power phrase, right? Tell me more. And
There you go. Yeah.
whether you're using it in business or even in your personal life, it literally not only gets them to speak more that you're sharing with, it gives you a minute to think.
This is Dental All Stars, where we bring you the best in dentistry on marketing, management, and training.
Welcome to Dental All Stars. I'm Eric Vickery, President of Coaching at All Star Dental Academy. My guest today, Greg Essenmacher, is a leading expert in fixed full arch dentistry, which, as I think everyone knows, is a hot topic. He's been helping transform implant practices into full arch powerhouses. As the founder of G&A Consult, he's been focused for over a decade now on the fixed full arch market. He uses tailored solutions and cross-functional collaboration to maximize his clients' potential. His expertise includes optimizing patient acquisition cost, coaching for lead calls, and improving case acceptance, which we all love here. His insights on actionable steps enhance a practice's ability to convert full arch cases, increasing valuation, and improve EBITDA. All right. Awesome. Well, welcome, Greg. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here, Eric. And I figured a few of those words might land with your listening audience and with your whole team if they're listening too.
I love the case acceptance stuff. So I have to ask you about cross-functional collaboration. And what was the other one? Using tailored solutions and cross-functional collaboration. Just expand
Those
on
are
that
just
for a
big
moment.
words and phrases. Yeah, I just want to sound important. Yeah, so I just throw stuff in. Yeah, to jump in, the cross-functional collaboration, what we find is so often, especially in big cases in full arch and really any auxiliary services, and we work with what we call micro teams, right? Because most of the clients that we work with are GP practices that
Yeah.
also do full arch and they're trying to grow it, is that things get so siloed. Right? Those that are converting the leads into consultations, the gals or guys that are doing the consultations, the doctors, the dental assistants, and it's really a 360 view of the practice. And that's how we approach it at G&A Consult. It's how I grew up in the dental industry of seeing how there just was this disconnect all the way and having a smooth patient walk flow throughout the entire process. They feel it. If they're going to make a $20, $30, $60,000 investment in a practice, we have to make sure that experience, that patient experience is seamless. And so that's really where we talk about this cross-functional, flow that has to really make sense for sure. Yeah. And then what was the second one? I know you threw me there by throwing it a curveball right into my dial.
No, I think that was it. But I think the term we use is seamless team. And again, that cross function, we're multi-talented, and the patient isn't stressed because, hey, we don't do that here and you got to go over there. It's just, you have a nice flow to it. So I love it.
Oh, and customized. Yeah. So customized, I think, was the other one. And that's the reason why that's so critically important, is that we customize solutions to each client. And I can just talk about that, right? Because you might have a practice that's doing 2.5, 3 million, right, in GP services and auxiliary services. And there might be a single practitioner with 2 dental assistants and maybe somebody who's cross-functional and the office manager that's actually doing the treatment planning, and 1 or 2 gals or guys up front. And that's it. And that's the whole team, maybe with 1 hygienist. And there might be another practice that has, a lead surgeon. It has 3 associates. It has 4 hygienists. It has 13. Build it out, right? One of our clients currently, single location, 15 operatories. The solutions, certainly formulas, are the same that we use at G&A Consult, but scripts not so much. And the way that you're dealing with each of the clients, it has to be customized for what they're doing. And so being able to flex and adjust, which we do with all of our clients, is so critically important, all the way up to a 33 location DSO that we're working with currently as well. How you flex and adjust to that is so critically important, because they need to get that playbook at the end of the engagement and say, great, this makes sense. Now let us apply it. Because if not, then we're just another fixture on their payroll, and they might as well hire a fractional or hire a full-time employee to do it. And that's
Yeah.
our philosophy. It's what I've known to be true and why it works for all of our clients.
So good. The tailored approach. So let's jump into this full arch case acceptance topic for today. So, you guys are known for your expertise in the full arch space. How did your journey into just fixed full arch dentistry, just the beginning, just, I guess your testimony on this, and how did you develop this niche in the dental world? Give us some background there.
Yeah, and it really is a niche. So I've been in dental for 18 years, but the fixed full arch started really in 2013, early 2014. I was brought on as the original part of the team with Neodent, right? A part of Straumanngroup, Neodent being their value line. And we went right after the full arch market, right? One of our very first big accomplishments was partnering with ClearChoice and working with
Oh
that
yeah.
account. But really, it was not so much about the DSO special market space back in 2014. It was the individual clinics. If it was all being done under one roof, we wanted to partner with you to help build and grow your full arch practice in that piece of your practice. And so
Mhm.
we as a team really focused and honed in on how to build and grow. And my philosophy had always been, look, we're at conferences all the time, and this is back in the mid 2010s, so the conferences were a lot different than they are today, right? And you're there, and then it's the breaks in between and the lunches and whatnot, and all the doctors and assistants, and they come over, and it gets crazy and chaotic, and you're getting all these leads, and then they go into their sessions for that hour and a half, and then it's break time and it's crazy. But that during that break session, what is it that you do at that time? Well, for me, it was meeting other industry partners. What do you do? What do you do? Tell me
Mhm.
about what you do. Because as we would go in, instead of, oh, want to buy my implant, which is
Yeah.
what a lot do, hey, do you want to buy my product? It was
Mhm.
going in and finding out what needs does a client have, a prospect, a customer have that's 360 view, right? Well, of course, I want you to buy my implant, bone grafting material, whatever the case may be, but maybe it's marketing services. Maybe it's they're looking for an intraoral scanner. And if we didn't have the product, at least I knew, you know what? I met John last week or last month, and he might have a solution that could work. And making those introductions, because if I can create myself 10x, why wouldn't I do that in
Mhm.
the industry? And that's really the philosophy that I brought and implemented with Neodent as part of the Strawman Group. And that really served me well there. And that's what I've also done at G&A Consult 3.5 years ago when I created this business. It was about getting to know other industry partners. How can I help you in your business? And it's really come back to me tenfold. And it's
Mm.
how we've really been able to grow and scale G&A Consult.
Love it. Love it. What does GNA stand for?
Well, it stands for Greg and Al, my husband. So, but if others want to ask and they have a little issue with that, because the DEI is not real popular now, then it stands for growth and acquisition. Eric, thank you for asking very
Growth.
much.
Okay, growth and acquisition. So funny story, the first agency that I worked with back in the day, PMA was the name of the company. And on the board, it said Plan Marketing Associates. That's what everybody knew it as, but PMA actually stood for Positive Mental Attitude. So you always have these, sub meanings of what's going on. So, all right, wonderful. I love it. I love it. So you guys focus on getting patients in the door and case
Mhm.
acceptance when it comes to full arch. So there's people out there listening. We love making our podcast like, oh, I'm gonna walk away with something I can actually take action on this. So there's there's practice out there listening. Man, we're not converting either the phone call, we're not converting the case acceptance on full arch. It's so expensive. All people care about is the money. Tell us what is one thing you're seeing common in practices on these mistakes, and then action. What can they do to fix those things?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what we know to be true, that very first touch point, the first experience, especially if you're in the direct to consumer marketing, and let me
Yeah.
be very clear on that, because the other side, the referral, whether it's an internal referral or
Hmm.
anything, there's already
Yeah.
trust built in, and it's a transfer of trust,
Totally
something
different.
built in,
Yeah.
or if it's coming through your practice. So in
Yep.
the direct to consumer side, right, there's zero trust built in. They found you on an ad on Google, right? Or, through Instagram or Meta, some Meta platform. Somehow they found you and were inspired to either do a form, fill a survey, or they called your practice.
Hmm.
The most important critical things, speed to lead. People talk about that all the time. I'm sure they've heard about that. How quickly can you get back to them? It's so critically important, categorize. But there's a couple other pieces that I really want to talk about that's critically important. One of the most important is that making an emotional connection with the patient,
Mhm.
not outbound to them, but getting the patient to be able to connect back with you when it comes to these big cases. That's that stickiness that's so critically important. It's not a hygiene patient. It's not a name, rank, and serial number. Do we take your insurance and
Yeah.
booking them in? Now, and I don't
Mhm.
mean to say that disparagingly for the general dentistry side of practices, because that's critically important. And most of
Mhm.
our clients have that and a big need for that. And it's a driver. It's an engine driver for profitability. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes to the big cases, and it's been shown that average phone call for a new patient in the hygiene chair,
Mhm.
if you will, is about a minute and a half to 2 minutes, right? In full arch, it's been shown that if you want your no-show rate to be low and you really want to be able to not only book a consultation, but have the highest percentage of pull through, right? Which is
Mhm.
that you're actually generating revenue from that patient and pre-qualification. And we're not talking about like, that they can pay for it, and you have all this, but at least have some type of pre-qualification for them. They have some clue about what they're coming in for type of situation. Their dental condition somewhat. You've made that emotional connection with the patient. There is some stickiness to it. It's really about having that 7 to 8 minute conversation where they've detailed to you why.
Mhm.
If you've gotten them to tell you their story, right?
Mhm.
To divulge, they're not going to want to do that again over and over again, calling three,
Mhm.
four other places and making a
Mhm.
consultation. That's the piece. And
Yeah.
this can be taught and trained, not with scripts, but with formulas. And I
Mhm.
say that because if it's a script, it's going to sound like a 54-year-old white male who grew up in Detroit. And let me tell you, Yesenia down in Houston should not sound like a 54-year-old white male from Detroit, right? Now, I don't want to say that like, scripts don't ever use them because they do have a place. When you're in basic boot camp, you're in basic boot
Mhm.
camp, but you're not going to put somebody who just came out of boot camp in a $2 billion fighter jet. And when you're
Mhm.
talking about a $60,000 potential case, you need people who are in fighter jet mode, right?
No.
So that
No.
level of training,
Yeah.
so scaling up to that, and that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah. So for us, translation, those listening that know the great call process are rapport. This is rapport where you're and engage. You're engaging them and you're finding an emotional connection. Chair side, those are listening, the emotional SWOT, finding the why. This is exactly in sync with our belief system. This is why we're meeting, doing this, and supporting you. You can get that story being told on the phone. That's amazing. Is there a question you would say would be a hack, a coaching hack on, man, if you could ask this question, you get that patient to open up the floodgates and you really can tap into it? Or is it more just a feel and you got to have street smarts? You got to know how to connect with people?
Sure. I mean, a simple one, and this is what I use now, granted at G&A Consult, because I have not been somebody who has sat in that seat over and over, that hot seat, taking 10, 20,
Mm,
30 leads a day, sometimes more, right? And working that pipeline, the 4 calls, 4 touches, 4 days, and all of that. Mine is pretty straightforward. And it's like, tell me a little bit more about your dental condition, right?
yeah.
Not what you're calling for, because
Yep.
that's requiring them to know what service they're inquiring about, but tell me about your dental condition, not what bring why are you calling today, right?
Yep.
Not that, but tell me about your dental like what's going
Totally.
on, Jenny? Like
Yeah.
what's happening in
Yeah.
that mouth of yours, right? And
Yeah.
that's the piece, right? However that question comes about, even if they're just calling and asking about one of the two questions that they actually know how to ask. How much is it? Does my insurance cover it? Those are
How
the
much
only
do
two
you breathe?
questions that yeah, it's the only two
Yeah.
questions they really know how to ask when it comes to that lane. I mean, some know a little bit more than others, but as you're asking them about their dental condition or however you want to phrase that question, again, that sounds like you, natural like
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
right? To get
Yeah.
them to open up about, tell me what's going on, right? Well, I have a
Yes.
cracked tooth and then I also have this like partial, or I have an upper plate that just never has fit right. So I haven't really worn it over the last couple of years. It's hard. I don't go out to eat with my, whatever that looks like, to be able to make that connection. That's what you're trying to get to. So there are some simple phrases. That's one that I use.
Love
My
it.
team members laugh at me when I use it. They're like, "Oh, that's so generic." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, sometimes I'm pretty basic, but not
Mhm.
in my
I think so.
personality." So
Yeah.
and anytime with any of our clients, whether it's, on the phone, 'cause we do virtual trainings like this, and we also go in clinic, and to reinforce the virtual trainings, any of the client, and I say the same thing, and all of my team members at any time, They can pop you in that chair, whether it's for a consultation or to take some lead calls, and you better be ready to do it. And some of the best stories we have come out of that one, especially when they look at me and I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. Why
Yeah.
don't you take the call? I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Right.
There you
It's
go.
just, it's fun to try to navigate, right? It's like cooking in someone else's kitchen, right?
Yeah.
Or on somebody
Yeah.
else's grill. You don't know the hot spots of the steak. It's like, oh, I'm
Love
going to cook a
stepping in.
burger. That
Yeah,
one,
love
oh, that
stepping
one's
in.
good. Yeah.
So that again, that fits with our system. Be interested, not interesting. It's a Dale Carnegie phrase. Before you can be interesting, you must be interested. And we talk about there's a get out of jail free question you can ask. It's 5 words. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about and fill in the blank. Pretty simple to remember. And then you can expand from there and get fancy from there. And we love the how questions using that word how. So beautiful. So is there a
Well, and I want to insert here too. I love it because I call it a power phrase, right? So to put it in G&A consult
yeah,
vernacular, it's mine is 3. It's tell me more. And
there you go. Yeah.
whether you're using it in business or even in your personal life, it literally not only gets them to speak more that you're sharing with, it gives you a minute to think.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
don't know where to take the conversation next, simply saying, tell me more. People love talking about themselves.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
the
Yeah.
one topic that they'll never get tired of
Favorite
talking
topic.
about themselves is, so tell me more. And once my team members, because we keep onboarding more, as we grow, and once they actually adopt that and realize that, they're like, you use that a lot with me, don't you? You're just trying to know what to say next. I'm like, I don't know, but yeah, it's tell me more. And I love that you have the 5 words. I've narrowed it down to 3, which is just,
Love
I
it.
need time to think here. Tell me more. And sometimes
Yeah.
people be like, well, what do you mean by that? I'm like, well, just tell me a little bit more about what you're saying so
Yeah.
I can understand, help me to
Deeper.
understand better. Right. But
Yeah.
the tell me more, and they'll just go off for another minute or two. I'm like, okay, what do I want to say next? What direction do I want to take the conversation? Or what phrase do I want to pull out and tap into to make
That's
more of
so
an
interesting.
emotional connection,
Yeah.
to grab it and get that stickiness going, so that they're going to want to choose us using those unique selling propositions. Why are we differentiated from the guy or gal down the street? What makes us
Yes.
unique? Those pieces, right, to pull out and draw out, which, I love too, because I was talking with one of your team members prior to setting this up, and I'm like, there's a lot of alignment between the 2 philosophies of the 2
Yes.
companies. And
Yes.
because ultimately, Eric, it really boils down to a bunch of little things. It's generally not the big things. And that's what we find with our clients. It's a bunch of the little things and the accountabilities and the measurables and the metrics that get to the next level. So if anyone watching this, listening to it, is frustrated because their conversion rates aren't there, their return on investment of marketing dollars isn't there, any of those pieces that stymie a practice, or it used to be better, right?
Yeah.
Or our leads used to be better, or fill in the blank. It's
Yeah.
really a lot of the little things, and being able to inject a outside perspective to be able to get some of those systems back on track, and maybe bring in a few more nuggets from best practices of clinics around the country. It can be tremendously helpful and really put back on track some of those things that you're trying to accomplish.
So many thoughts going in alignment with this. Have you already read Captivate by Vanessa Van Edwards? Have you already read this book?
I have
Fairly
not.
new. Okay. Yeah, check it out. Just some things that you're talking about. Tell me more about that. She does every year. She does either of us could do this. She does a 7 days of silence, a vow of silence. And what she talks about in the book is she gets business with 4 flashcards in her hand. I'm on a vow of silence. I'm so sorry. Tell me more about you. That's her flash. And she has a 4th one she goes through. I can't remember what it is, but she's like, people love to talk about themselves. And when you're quiet enough, you get creating space for something that probably wouldn't have been communicated because you didn't have awkward silence. And there's power in the silence. So tell me more about that. And then let it lie. Let it lie. The other thing you got me thinking about here is okay, converting that new patient call, the pinnacle of that. So now we know 7 to 8 minutes. We tell a story often about the 24-second new patient phone call and how this doctor sent it to me and how poorly it was done because there's no training. And the patient said, oh, I see you guys do those dentures that stick. They have the implants in there. I have 20-year-old dentures and they're flopping all around. I have Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I'm wondering, where do I go from here? And our untrained team member said, oh, I'm so sorry. We don't work with them. Okay, thanks. Bye. that was the end of the phone call. And we just, roll out, verbal skill coaching from that point. So hear the difference. 1 to 2 minutes. Are you just making a task or a transactional conversation, or are you getting into relational conversation on the phone call? So, making sure you're building rapport, that you're being interested, not interesting. Let them talk it out a bit and let there be some silence so that they fill that void with their words and connect with them. I love that you're saying use their words. And then where's that pinnacle? Where's that shift to say, okay, we do this and we know we're getting these patients scheduled. Once you got that emotional connection, what's that next call to action on getting the call scheduled? What would you say you guys work on there?
Yeah, and it's really about the and I love, everything I'm hearing from you because it really is about being relational with the patient, and it's that once you understand that there's a need that the patient has, it's really talking about how you are uniquely positioned to be able to solve for X and solve for the challenge that they're faced with. It's identifying that, we have helped others just like you without saying, "Oh, yeah,
Yep.
we do this all the time," right?
Yep.
And in that exercise that we do with all of our clients very early on, creating this unique selling proposition. And sales isn't a dirty word. You're selling yourself all the time. I'll give you an example, right? If you go out to eat and, if you aren't like LeBron James and you don't have like the best table of all time, or you don't have a reservation and you're just going out to eat, friends, spouse, whatever the case may be, you walk into a restaurant, whether it's the maitre d', the hostess, doesn't matter if it's fine dining or even, the local Applebee's, they still have Applebee's, right? I think so. And
Yes, they do.
table selection, right? Table selection. Do you want to sit by the window and have a nice view, or do you want to be stuck back by the restroom or, where it's really loud and clangy by the kitchen? Do you sell that opportunity to the person who's going to select your table for you? It's going to impact the next hour to hour and a half or 3 hours, depending on how long you have your dining experience. It's going to impact that meal. And so do you sell the opportunity of, oh, yeah, is it possible to get that booth over there in that corner booth?
There's
That would be
ads.
fantastic. It's a really good evening that we really want. You know what? My husband would be really happy if you do that. If not, I'm going to be in the doghouse. And you know what? After the day that I've had today, I could really use that. Right. So
Yeah.
selling. Right. And some people do it all the time and some don't. Or, another good example is, I don't know. Do you have a significant other? You were probably selling yourself in the first 3 or 4 dates that you went on. At least most people do.
Yeah.
Did you clean out your car? Did you make sure you had on, some clean laundry? Did you, shower and use deodorant? Right. Eventually you get to the point when you've been married for a while. It's like, yeah, they see that, they see that soft underbelly, I'm just saying. But this is what I'm saying, that selling. And so the unique selling proposition, back to my point, is that it's not just throwing out like features, oh, we have the latest technology. Oh, we have this. It's the why. It's why does that matter to the patient? Being patient centric. Why would it matter to them? Well, we have some of the latest technology so that we can get you your teeth more comfortably faster. We get the patient. So it's always transitioning to be patient centric, to really help them to understand that it's for you, not for us. And you talked about that, right? To be interested, which is patient centric, not interesting. It's not about me. It's got nothing to do with us. We want you to select us, but it's more, it's about you than it is about us. And we've helped folks just like you. And then to create a little sense of urgency. But on the phone, you're not really doing it like as a matter of, oh, you better do something about that, right? Oh, I've really waited a long time to reach out to you. Oh, I'm glad you finally did, right? Don't guilt them into it, right? Because that's judgment, right? It's one of the 7 ways of active listening is be judgment free. And those are the pieces that really then drive the conversation forward. We teach something, that formula I was talking about, right? It's EAZ, right? Empathy, which is super critically important. The A is assurance, right? Sure, they called the right spot, but acknowledge what they've said always, right? Don't, they said, oh, well, is this something that's going to hurt? Yeah, it's not going to hurt. So let's go ahead and get you booked.
No.
Okay, right? But answer the question. Doesn't mean if they say, how much does it cost? 60,000, you don't blurt that out, right? But answer, at least, acknowledge and answer the question.
Yeah.
And ask another question, driving it to the Z, which is talking with a little bit of zeal. Vast majority of patients that you talk to that have this current situation where they have a need for this procedure in full arch, most of them talk in undertone, understated tone. They've been embarrassed, hiding their mouth, things of that nature for a very long time, right? So elevating that conversation in speech and tone, you can actually watch and listen to it. by the end of the conversation where they will lift their voice and tone up. I mean, not overwhelming
Because they're
them.
comfortable and you're building trust.
Exactly. And so that's the piece of getting to that appointment. And then we believe in that, give them two options, right? We have tomorrow at 10 and then, well, today's, the day, right? So another day after that in the afternoon, morning, afternoon, next 2 days, two options. And if they can't, then they'll let you know and then figuring out something forward. Not that, well, we have plenty of time. What's a good day and time for you? That
No.
makes me cringe, right?
Saturday.
We just don't do that, right? Come in anytime. And making sure, especially in full arch too, that comes to the operation side of what we do as well with practices, not just the coaching and training, but the operation side is your scheduling optimization. Like, can you get those consultations in a short period of time? Because we know if it's further out than 2 days, that no-show rate skyrockets, and you don't have availability. What are you doing, right? You've got to be able to optimize that.
And that's why they're not showing up. I got new patients. Well, okay, let's have a question for you. And then, I'm scheduling new patients out 2 months. Well, yeah, every night they go to bed, you increase the chance of them no showing. All right, let's go back through this. Let's get some good stuff. Unique selling proposition. So we use a term called law of the herd. People feel safer together. So we do this a lot. All of our patients that have come through and done this, we see people with that sort of insurance all the time. And here's how it works. You can connect them to that. So this is so good. You talked about the S word, and this is a PG podcast. So if you did use the S word, sell, it is a 4-letter S word. But at the end of the day, you make a great point. We're all in sales at some point in our life, and we just don't want to do it the wrong way with the pressure. And you very eloquently describe, hey, it's just getting to a place where you can ask. You get so comfortable with someone, you build that 7 to 8 minutes where you're connecting with them, you're building a trust and rapport, and then it makes sense. Draw this connection. Oh, your why? We have a solution for that. Wouldn't it make sense for us to go ahead and get you scheduled for an appointment here? How do you feel about going ahead and getting your first visit scheduled with our office? Great. I've got this one or this one. Which one of those works best for your schedule? And then you could set the expectations from there. Love it so much. And then you got me thinking, reminder, people buy for their reasons, not your reasons. And that's all you're doing is taking their why, connecting it to your new patient visit, saying, hey, because you said it was important for you to have a confident smile again, or whatever it is, you can connect that to the appointment. That's so good. All right, let's shift gears. The phone, we got them in, we converted the phone call conversion, new patient phone call into an appointment. They actually showed up, and now it's case acceptance time. So what do you see as the biggest mistake people are making when it comes to large case acceptance, and how to avoid that? What's the solution action in replace of that?
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to a few things. Actually, one of the most important is to understand that, clinicians should be talking clinically, right? Making sure that they actually have that skill set. And then when the treatment coordinator's opportunity, we believe very strongly that the treatment coordinator should be greeting the patient. And a patient that comes in for a consultation for a big case, 20, 30, $60,000, they are not the same as somebody that's coming in for a cleaning. They just aren't. And making sure that they're being treated at the concierge level is something that's critically important. If they're treated that way from the very beginning and understand that they're being singled out, absolutely. There should be an anticipation when they come in, right? Anticipate that this person is coming in and treat them as such. Whatever your walk flow is, whoever's going to be in that walk flow, understanding what it is and making sure it's a smooth process. That's first and foremost, right? Uncovering and discovering what's important to them. In full arch, it's not the product. It's not the what. It's just not. You have to deliver a good what. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the what. It's the why. It's the motivation. Jenny, why now? Right? You have 2 root canals with crowns that have been on there for a very long time, and one of them is chipped off. You have a partial on the other side that doesn't fit really well, and it's on a clasp, and it's hooked on the back tooth, and it's been cutting into your gums for years, and we've talked about it. Now you have a chipped tooth and it's time to just do something about that, isn't it? Right? Or you have that's the Frankenstein mouth, or you have the other patient that just hasn't been to a dentist in 20 years because it's just been super problematic, right? And then there's a third big category of patient, right? So it's that person who perhaps made different choices in life. I've been sober 20 years, so I know what this is like. You made different choices in life, and then you hit that ceiling of ability after you've been clean for a period of time, right? Clean and sober a period of time, and you just can't get to that next level in your career because it's just super problematic. But now people, yourself, are willing to invest in you to get to that next level, right?
Yeah.
So the understanding that piece of who are you actually, who do you have in front of you? And
Mm.
that starts in that lead call. That starts with that uncovering and discovering during that connection phase and doing that, what we call the hand off, hand up, so that
Mhm.
there's an understanding of who is that that's now in front of me
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than, oh, here's a consultation. Great. So we look at the pano. Wonderful. Jacked up.
They
Well, could we get a little something here? And
they walk
that's
in
good.
and say, "So what brings you in today?" Is the opposite of this. You know, you already know all this. You're set up for success, so deliver it. So you're making this connection with them, rolling out the red carpet. You maybe think of the book Raving Fans, I think was the book.
Craving
And
referrals.
yeah, and it's just how do you roll out this red carpet in your industry for them? How do you set yourself up so they do have a different level of experience? And then you said the discovery process, finding their why. We love that. Why is having this so important to you? Peace of mind, Grandpa Brown Tooth, job promotion, confidence, all of these reasons. And now you're not, there's the S word, you're not selling a full arch all on X. You are selling the emotion solvent that takes care of their why when they get this dentistry done with you. I didn't buy a $100 drill. I didn't even just buy a hole in the wall. I bought the feeling I get when I look at the picture on the wall. And we got to recognize that there's levels to this, and you could do this as a treatment coordinator. You could do this in discovery process one-on-one with the patient, connecting with them and spending time with them. Do you have any other parameters to this? So that's a setup to case acceptance. That's that. And then the next step, would you say, is showing them what it looks like, having them imagine it. I don't want to give you answers, but tell me
Yeah,
where you
it's
go.
still on the stake. Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's being able to walk them down the path. It's helping them
yeah,
to understand, what does this look like for you, right?
yeah,
Imagine, if you will, a world in which, take you down that path. And then the next step, which is then getting to the clinical aspect, right? Which is so critically important. And it goes to the hand off, hand up now between the treatment coordinator and the clinician. And it's not simply of stepping out of the room and saying, hey doc, jacked up jaw, we've already had a little bit of a preliminary discussion. What is that patient buyer profile, right? Have they been to 2 other consultations and now this is a third, so they have a really high dental IQ? Like
yeah,
they understand, like they know it's going to be specialized implants in the maxilla, and they understand a general under blah blah blah, and they're ready to go? Or is it a matter of they really don't know that much, so you might want to be soft and gentle? It's not just that piece, right? That's
yeah.
one. Buyer profile, do you understand that? Clinically, how much do they actually understand? It's the other pieces. By the way, right? He's really into sports cars. And so, you might want to bring that up. He was just at the Hot Rod Rally 2 weeks ago, and he plans on going X, Y, and Z. Or,
Mm,
you know, she actually said to Jenny, who took all of her digital records, didn't say it to me, but she passed that along to me, that she really hasn't been out to eat in 3 years. And it's,
mm.
her and her husband
My
like are having
gosh.
a little bit of challenges because
Yeah,
she's just too embarrassed to go out to eat anymore.
yeah,
Like, not that the doctor's going to walk in and bleh, right? So that happens outside, right? The
yeah.
consultation room, the operatory, whatever it is. Then coming in, then the handoff, hand up in front of the patient.
Yes.
Hey, Dr. So and so, I want you to meet, Victoria here. And this is what's going on. This is what she shared. And this is blah, blah, blah. I want you to meet Dr. So and so. And then the doctor simply says, it's so great to meet you, Victoria, right? Is there anything else that you'd like to share about
Mm,
your current dental condition? Right?
mhm.
There's that phrase again that they've heard before, whatever's the agreed upon language,
Yeah,
because for the patient in the chair, right, wherever they are and doing the consultation, for them to hear back their own story of everything that they've divulged, it may be the first time they've heard all of that out loud. And for them to say, yeah, but you know what? In addition to that, the fact of the matter is, like, I've actually not been to consultation. I went and they were super salesy and I really hated that.
mm,
Good to know, right? And then the clinician can do the clinic thing, right? The clinical
mm,
thing, right? Questions asked, questions answered, and then handing back off the authority after that piece is done. Great. Well, Victoria, if you have any other questions for me, I'm here. And you can absolutely, and Amy here is fantastic, right?
mm.
She can come and get me, but you're in really good hands with her. we'd love to be able to create that dream smile for you and help you get you exactly what you're looking for so that you can go out to eat again with your
There you
husband.
go. There it
So,
is.
and
Yep.
then it's the transfer back of authority to
Yes.
Amy, rather than
Empower.
just like, great,
Yeah.
deuces, out he goes, and
Yeah.
all that authority goes with. And now
Mm.
Amy's got to try to greet, build rapport, go through.
Why are you
Greet
talking
part,
with
but
me? Yeah.
exactly. It's like, wait, he just went out the door. I want to, what, don't leave me. Right.
Yeah.
Because so it's that handoff, hand up part. And I know we're talking about case acceptance, but this is the patient experience. It's as if you have this ball of trust that you're slowly adding to constantly
Yeah.
that has
Yeah.
to be handled and cared for. That way, all of those questions can be answered by the time you actually get to presenting the dollars. Because
Yeah.
if you have objections to that, you haven't really built you haven't built
There's
the
nothing to
house,
stand on. Yeah. There's no
nothing.
foundation to it. No connection.
And so
So
that's really because,
yeah.
I mean, case acceptance is all foundational to patient experience, which is all driven by team development. And team
Yeah.
development is all
And
about the leadership
communication.
from the top and
Yeah. In
communication.
communication, in that effective communication.
Yeah.
So let's go back through it so everybody hears this too, and then we'll wrap up here. So emotional treasure is something you got me thinking about. What are they sharing? This treasure they're sharing with you that's emotionally tied. So their why could even be deeper than that. That embarrassment out to dinner. That's something that you cherish, you hold on to, and you reflect back to when it's appropriate, which is the reason why they would buy. The handoff, hand up, we call it the transfer of care. What you're doing is you're empowering the next person in line, not saying, you have any questions for me? Nope. All right, you're all set. Here's Amy. That is
Deuces.
not, yeah, deuces. That is not what you're doing here. That's not what you're pointing out. It's look, people think that they're just in the tooth industry, but we're actually in the relationship business. You don't get to do the teeth if you don't establish a relationship. And so have a system, have some skill set in how you effectively communicate on this. Love it. So good. Is there a pinnacle after that moves them into treatment that you find, hey, if I could give you one golden nugget here on the podcast, Eric, say this to your patients. This is a great way to move them towards case acceptance. Is there a question you ask? Is there something you say, some dust you sprinkle on here, some special sauce?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways, and honestly, to bring on like one of my senior sales trainers, they'd probably want to do that themselves and say, "Greg, don't say that. Greg, don't say that. That's not effective," because they've literally taken the foundation that I built at G&A Consult because it was foundational, and they've really built onto, right? And again, scripts don't work. We believe that scripts don't work, especially when it comes to those patients, because for some, the conversation might be, what do you find more valuable, like the payment plan or the finance charges, or how are you looking to make this investment in your brand new smile, which can be a much more powerful one. And so there's so many different paths just depending on what have you gathered along the way
Mm.
in order to present that next when you get ready to talk about the money. Because if you're talking a 20, 30, $60,000 case, you got to get to the money eventually, right?
Yeah.
You have to present that
They're thinking
in a
about it
way
all the
that
time.
doesn't, yeah, it's a continuum, right? There has to be flow, right?
Yeah.
Probably the most important thing I would say from what all of my experience and what my team always tells me is when you ask that first question and you present that first question about money,
Mm.
first one to speak loses. Like,
Mm.
put it out there and then allow them time to digest. And the last thing that I'll just put a cap on all of this. One thing that we know to be true, and I do a lot of speaking, right? From stages and for doctors and, on team development and patient experience and case acceptance and all of this. Retention, probably 20 to 25% of everything, even on this podcast of what I've shared here today, unless they hit pause or take notes, right? It's just, it's human nature, right? The same goes true, maybe even less for patients. And so to go back to that lead call, asking and closing the question as you book the consultation, and so many are afraid to ask this question, who will be joining you on your consultation? Oh, I have to bring someone with me. It's always a good idea to have another set of ears because it is a lot of information to take in, which is true. Because we know they get really excited, emotionally involved in moving forward. They get all this information, and then I know for me, if I were going to move forward with something that was going to be a $500, $600, $700 payment a month for 10 years, I certainly better ask my husband, right? Well, I could, but if I didn't, oh, are you kidding me? Right? Talk about getting in a lot of trouble, right? Forget about getting the bad table in the restaurant, right? There'd be a lot of hell to pay for that one. But I say that because If they're only retaining a little bit of that technical information, then we're asking them, if they don't sign on the dotted line right then and there, to go home and talk to another financially interested party in their household to then sell and talk about everything that we've talked about here today. What's the likelihood that they're going to be able to fill in all of those gaps or answer the questions that are just legitimate questions that somebody would have? And so my piece would be, and it's not, oh, well, we give them a really nice brochure to take home. Really? That's what you're going to rely on for a $20,000, $30,000, $60,000 case? And so my piece would be is that it's 360. It's asking those and making sure they have enough of the information, and then the follow-up, which is critically important. And I maybe we'll do a follow-up episode about what does follow-up, that cadence, both for lead call and for treatment coordinators. When they format, what's the function, and what are the assets to use that really re-trigger that emotional connection with the patient that really does want to move forward? And how do you follow your pipeline of follow-up, especially in big case acceptance? Because it's so critically important, because it's not the same day close that it was before, right? But we know that within 7 days, that case acceptance level in full arch is pretty similar to where it was 5-6 years ago.
Yeah,
and so those are the pieces that I'd say, those little nuggets for those that are listening to say, oh, that sounds great. And I've got a lot of free resources that I'm absolutely willing to share, and throw it in the show notes and really find out because I'm willing to share all of that. Yeah.
So let's just go there now. So how do they get that sort of stuff? How would they connect with you and find that?
Yeah, the easiest way is just hop over to our website at dental consult, the number 4 and the letter U.com. Or just look up my name if you can figure out how to spell that last name. And on socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or GNA Consult on all of those platforms as well. Or look me up on the YouTube channel. And there's so much free content as well. And there's also some free goodies too. If you book a discovery call, a strategy session, just mention this podcast, and we'll also one thing that I love to do, because of, the nature of your listeners, it is on coaching and strategy and what you do as well. And I talked to some of your team members. I said, look, if they mention this particular podcast, please do in scheduling that strategy. What we'll do is we'll actually take some of your calls, we'll set up the apparatus. We'll listen to some of your calls and give you feedback on how to improve. You don't have to become a client or a customer or anything like that. We'll just give you some free feedback on it in full arch, and give you some suggestions and recommendations in the framework we've shared here today in that EAZ format, which is a really good, valuable tool for you. And we find that clients or even prospects love that. And if it resonates with you, I think it could be super helpful for your team where they're at now. It doesn't matter how many you're doing, how many arches you're doing currently.
Love it. So nice of you. Love it. Thank you, Greg, for being on the show. For those that listen to this podcast or watch us on YouTube, you know the drill. Share it, spread the word, share this with someone. There's valuable information here that you can put action to. Don't just think knowledge is power. It's only potential power. If you do nothing after listening to this, if you thought it was great, that's a problem. Do some things that we talked about here. This is good, valuable information. So I appreciate you being here. You're in growth mindset mode. We love that. You're not declining. So thank you for being here, listening. Share this with others. Subscribe to the channel. And until next time, go out there and be an all-star.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Dental All Stars. Visit us online at allstardentalacademy.com.